Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tuber. Welcome back. If this is your fifth Perry Mason Season 2 episode review, hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there. My hair's getting bigger. I actually noticed it because last time I got my hair cut, it was kind of a little too even. I usually like the sides to be a little bit more shorter than my middle part. So I'm feeling it and I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to go to the barber. My schedule keeps changing always, so we'll see how that goes. Anywho, this week on Perry Mason, I will be honest with you. I feel like this was the most emotional episode for me of the season so far. It definitely made me connect a little bit more to the characters than I already do. Definitely, we are now fully understanding the stakes. We're getting more of the pieces are getting more and more filled. We still don't have quite a bit of a big picture yet, and definitely they're doing a different approach to this season than last, which I do appreciate. Because the thing with murder mysteries, you never want to repeat the same thing, even though well, just do the same thing again, and which usually is yeah, you can repeat the same success, but then it will get stagnant. At least with this, they did it at a different angle, and so far it seems to be paying off. There's still some more blank holes they have to finish between now and then episode 8, which, crazy enough, we only have 3 more episodes to go before the finale. Again, it feels weird that I waited so long for season 2 in general to come out, and then here we are, more than halfway through the season. And so far, I think, personally, going into episode 1, I was a little bit, I had my reservations. I had a little bit of optimistic, but also some reservations, because again, when you have a whole new cast and everything, not new cast, a whole new writing team, a whole new showrunner group, it could be great, it could be the same, or it could be worse. And thankfully, I feel like now we're getting into that point of was a really good call, but it's not entirely sold for me if it's going to be is this going to be better than season 1? But however, we don't have to answer that question today. But let's just go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Perry Mason. So I want to say we pick up with some lover scenes. It's been a whole week. Damn, I'm already forgetting the name. Della. Yeah, Della has had another night away with Anita, and obviously she's finally dropped the big L word. I love you, but Anita doesn't quite return it yet. She's still passed out. Also, why do I keep saying Darla? Della? Actually, now I'm good. Is it Darla or is it Della? It's Della. It's Della. Della calls over Perry to ask him something about the upcoming case, considering the fact they have to go to trial in less than an hour from now. Meanwhile, Perry had just finished his first night of lovemaking with the I swear to God, I had her name Jenny last night. Honestly, again, that was a little bit quick, but then again, considering the fact, okay, well, we probably maybe won't get a season 3 to explore this, possibly. Again, it's not certain. Again, this was supposed to be a limited series, and now they expanded it for a season 2. Will we get a season 3? That's a question for another day, but it was a little bit fast in my opinion. They've only really got to know each other. They've only had 1, maybe 2 serious talks before they hooked up. And yeah, again, I know you can have even less than that before you even have sex with someone, but this is a little bit different. Ginny, I believe, is very interested in Perry, and it's a little bit debatable if Perry does actually have feelings for her. It just seems Perry, again, the Perry we know is still not fully healed at all. I don't think Perry is a whole man yet, because he's just missing so much of himself from the last years before the show even began. Or even his fling with the pilot back in season 1, that was just mainly sexual. I do believe they cared about each other, but it wasn't meant he loved her or anything. It was okay, this woman wants to fuck me, and I want to fuck her. So I'm okay, that is what it is. But they did have genuine care for each other. You saw that back in the premiere. But here it's still a little too early for me to tell if Perry does really reciprocate feelings for her. I do believe they get along with each other, but it doesn't really, explain the basis for a full relationship. But we'll see how it goes. They're just doing a little makeout session. Perry's just vocally expressing his concern with the case, considering the fact of all the freaking facts that are against him now. And then Ginny reminds him, when do you have to be in court again? He says, an hour. I'm Perry, you are... Why? So Ginny decides to leave him alone to go ponder on the case that he's supposed to already have in his head already for weeks now. But regardless of that, they're just going to pursue all. And also, I remember it's been 3 weeks since The last episode, I don't think so. Like time works differently in Perry Mason. To be honest with you, like it really does. Or maybe time works differently in TV shows. So everyone assembles back at the court. It's day one of deliberations for the actual case itself. Immediately Perry, now knowing that, like, yes, for sure, the brothers. Actually, no, wait, that's not how the episode starts. It starts with a flashback, not too long ago, but like kind of, you know, I want to say in between a little. Like the timelines are like a little different here with this episode. Again, I literally said that like a minute ago, where the brothers and the older brothers, at the time girlfriend, have returned to the site of their old home, which was torn down for McCullen Stadium, the failed stadium project that the youngling wanted to make for his inheritance, for his legacy. They're looking around, kind of like, you know, seeing the stomping grounds, which of like, yeah, these are not the same stomping ground. They literally tore apart the foundation. They literally, like, this is a whole different foundation. So I'm like, if you think this is familiar, it's not. It really isn't. The oldest brother's kind of like being a little emotional, since, like, you know, this is the place where they first met, they first fell in love, they first did many things together, and this will hopefully be more first for them, as, you know, hopefully eventually they will have a new beginning, they will have a better life for each other, have a family of their own, and that's where he proposes to her. She accepts. But yeah, again, this is the episode where, like, you really get to feel for the brothers. You know, last week, you know, the last 2 weeks have kind of like, you know, set that up a little bit. This was like the full episode where, like, they were focusing on the family a little bit more, kind of like really honing in of like what they really have in stake here. Going into like, you know, present day, where they're still scared shitless. You know, they don't really know what's going to go on, because again, we know they killed them, but Perry's goal is to, like, at least prevent them from even going to prison that long. They're going to prison regardless. You know, it's really kind of a losing battle. They did kill him. All Perry has to do now is, like, you know, lead a mastermind. Like, well, if it wasn't for this guy, if he didn't do the whole thing, none of this would even be. It still wouldn't excuse murder at the end of the day, but, you know, nothing can ever excuse murder. Like, no matter what the story, no matter what, you still committed murder. You know, you still got to face some sort of repercussion for that. Whether that is, you know, by the law or emotionally or physically, there is a repercussion for your actions. I want to say immediately on this first day, the first and only witness for the day is the bus driver that pointed out the brothers at the that dropped them off nearby to where the car's location was. And, you know, Perry's already trying to, you know, establish, you know, reasonable doubt with his statement, because, like, he's always guessing. It's not really a confirmed statement, but considering the fact of how hot the case is, how very, you know, finicky with the suspects are, with the accused, everyone's not really paying much serious attention to the case, and they don't really like treat Perry's statement of like it's not a confirmed yes or no, but it isn't really something that, like, they're kind of like, you know, already swaying about. Even the wife and mother, like, comes to him and says, like, why didn't you appeal more? Why didn't you, like, you know, fight for them a little bit more? And Perry's like, well, yeah, I know if this was like a regular discussion or an argument, yeah, you would be saying all that, but in a court of law, you have to follow rules, you have to follow these guidelines, and, like, there was never really much of points for Perry to say I object or something like that, because, like, it just didn't seem the right time to introduce those statements at the time. However, before Perry, you know, can really, you know, go about his day, he does explain to them that, like, right now, we know they killed them, right now, but we need to establish, you know, another threat. We need to establish another person that could potentially have, you know, started this entire thing to get some of the heat off the brothers. And, you know, the wife says, like, are you sure anyone? And so, but we'll get to them in a second. Drake, since he's not part of the case today, he heads over to the brother of that. So apparently now it fills in, at least in my brain. I'm pretty sure they set this up a while ago. That not Shattered, but the woman that Perry snuck into the home to back in the second or third episode. So the reason why she's like that, because she was in a car accident that was with the recipient of McCullen. However, the brother, who's also the I want to say the he's part of the district. He's like a big leader. I forgot the title of him, but he just says, like, no, it was just a family issue. You know, don't worry about it. Like, you know, McCullen may have been involved, but beyond that point, you know, nothing else happened. This is just purely a family matter. But Drake, you know, presses him a little bit more, but he does express to him, like, you know, this is where your investigation stops. And he's like, it's a subtle warning. Do not investigate this further. Don't. But definitely, Drake managed to rattle a little bit of a foundation there. So Perry goes over to the house of the wife and mother, where they show him the money they found in the last week's episode, indicating that the brothers were paid off by someone for $2,000. Which I'm like, okay, I have no idea what the monetary value of $2,000 is back then. And second of all, even if it's murder, I'm like, I don't think $2,000 is going to do much for you. Like, I would have negotiated for 10 at the time period. If it was now, it'd be obviously worse because, like, we're in a recession on inflation and such. While this does definitely get the ball rolling a little bit of, like, beginning to, like, find who really did, organize this entire, thing. They still need to find the main thing of, like, who started this entire thing. Where did this money come from? That's where they need to go to now. So they all regroup back at the office where they're trying to, now they know for sure that the brothers were paid to do this. Now their priority is to find the person who sent them the money, who paid them off to do this entire thing. Drake's still pressing the brother of the disabled sister we saw a couple weeks ago. There's still a lot of factors at play. There's still a lot of people out there who have a motive to kill him, really. So it doesn't really, it's still not fully done yet. I want to say, yeah, they immediately have to go back to court, which I'm like, I'm not sure if this is a separate day or if, like, there was just a two-parter day. So like they took a break, a pretty good recess or something like that. I really am not entirely % sure, but it does seem like it's still on the same day. But right now their motive is, like, to find, well, first, Perry needs to talk to the brothers to see who gave them the money, and then that will at least give them a direction, a heading to go to, like, who is the big brain behind this entire thing. But they have to go back to court first. Immediately, Perry tries to call for a recess, but however, the opposing side, the defense, not the defense, the prosecutors immediately call for a recess, saying that they want to discuss a potential deal with the defense. Which is basically like, hey, look, they admit to everything. They'll do life in prison. They might die. That's basically it. We can end this trial here now. That's the best deal you're going to get. Which I'm like, no, not going to happen. We want 25 to life. We want 25 with a possibility of parole at 15. They're immediately like, no, anything less than life for parole, we're immediately denying it, But Perry was like, about a couple of days ago, they literally were going to go full in on the trial. Now they want an opportunity to back out. So something changed. Whoever is, like, really pushing these buttons here has definitely changed their agenda for one reason or another. So definitely, they are onto something with what they just realized, I think 2 weeks ago. Perry uses his opportunity to go visit the brothers. They explain to him, like, yes, someone did pay us off, but it wasn't just like, oh, it was a random hit for no reason. Like, no, we actually wanted to hurt McCullen because we got a flashback to even further back from the first flashback of the episode where the family, the full family of the brothers, the mother and, sadly, well, not sadly, the girlfriend, I'm presuming they had a daughter already because, like, that they're, timetable wise. But apparently the family had a younger sister. And the thing to note about that is that McCullen, bought out the apartment complex they were living at, but instead of, like, having a nice, peaceful, hey, everyone, you gotta go, like, the new owners, they want you all out, and you need to go now. Instead of, like, politely asking them, because McCullen was a piece of shit, I want to say he hired a bunch of police officers to go in and, like, basically kick them out and burn down the apartment complex in the process. However, the younger sister, who was confused at the time and also was like, she doesn't want to leave home, she just stayed in her closet, but the fire was, erupting. By the time the younger brother went in to go try and get her, it was too late. She already had, like, a bunch of burns already, or presumably they couldn't find, regardless of the case, she died. She died that night. And obviously, of course, McCullen never got faced trial for it. Obviously, because who's gonna? Again, I'm trying to say this in the context of back then. Who's gonna care? And it sucks. It really does suck that a lot of people got walked over at the time, but that sadly was the reality of it. So definitely, they did use this as, like, a little bit of retribution to, like, get something back. It still doesn't excuse what they overall did, but they're at least trying to justify it a little bit by saying, like, look, he took someone away from us. And honestly, again, it goes back to that argument where, like, I think I want to say the Last of Us argument where if you kill someone I love, I have to kill you, or, you lose someone you love. It's the eye for an eye method where it's debatable. Like, you know, obviously you want to be the better person. Like, tell them, like, you know, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to make sure you suffer. That's what I agree with. At least that's how my philosophy. If I ever was put in that situation, I really hope I don't. But I will admit that, like, yeah, I do understand their plea of, like, you know, that was a family member. Like, my father has literally told me plenty of time, if something was to happen to me or my sister, you know, when we were growing up, that, you know, whoever did something bad to us, he will. And this is not an admission of, like, any future thing that may or may not happen, you know, because, you know, screw the multiverse. But yeah, like, he will admit, like, yeah, he will destroy them. He will tear them apart. That is honestly, he as a person, obviously a lot of people are going to say, no, you can't do that. But I'm like, well, the first person shouldn't have done that. And, you know, honestly, we're going to get into a whole ethical dilemma here. So back to the show, back to your regularly scheduled programming here. So Perry pushes them a little bit more. They get a name of sorts. And the only real identifier to this person, because obviously, of course, there's a lot of people in LA that the person is wearing Converse, which I honestly did not know still existed back then. So they're posting around. Drake's asking his brother to see if he knows anyone. Drake's brother takes a little bit of offense to that, but Drake, seeing that, you know, again, he and his brother not entirely on the best of circumstances right now, just like tries to lighten the mood and say, hey, look, you know, I'm getting some income in. We're already looking for an apartment, so we'll be out of your hair soon. But the brother's like, I'm sorry, you know, you don't have to rush for that. He does admit to, like, try the guy that Drake actually got arrested in the first 2 episodes. He's out right now on bail. So if anyone who would really know anything about that, it would be him. So you can go ask him. I want to say Perry go. Oh yeah, so Perry goes back to the prosecutor, say, no, we're not taking the deal at all. And they're like, okay, good, works out benefit for us. Like, at least we still have a decent chance, but we'll get to that momentarily. So then the trial resumes, and their next piece of evidence is, I want to say, yeah, so the next piece of evidence was the fingerprints, which I'm like, yeah, even though the fingerprint technology is not the best back then, it does, you know, help identify a little bit clearer, at least, where Perry tries to poke holes into the prosecution's case with their questioning. It does work with an audible reaction, but the judge, seeing that this is a very big leap of faith over here to what Perry's assimilated, he decides to forego the entire conversation Perry had, but it's too late. So, like, I never understood, like, why, like, you know, the judge said, strike this from the record. I'm like, you know, you do realize they won't have to state it, but, like, they can still think about it. Like, you know, it's too late. That ideas in your brain, like, you can't forget stuff. It's not like, you know, you could just, like, have a memory eraser or anything. So I'm like, I don't really know how you would do that per se, but it definitely does rattle enough people in the courtroom to say that, okay, the prosecution's case is not entirely as ironclad as they seem to be. So that ends that day. I want to say, yeah, so Drake goes to visit the head, and you know, he's just pressing him, like, I found these pictures, and, you know, all I need to know is this person that I'm looking for. He doesn't say anything at the time when he just, like, you know, scoffs at him and just walks away. But later that night, he does call over Drake, saying that, you know, I found your guy, come over to this unmarked building. He goes over there, he finds a guy in a chair, and yeah, it's the guy that supposedly paid off the brothers. He immediately denies it, but once they start beating him up, especially after Drake admits that he was the one who took the photos of the guy, which he does apologize. He said, that wasn't my intention. It was just, I was told it was under the guise of your protection. I didn't know it was going to be used against you by the DA's office, so I do apologize. But as his kind of his, like, little punishment, he has to be the one to kind of, you know, teach this guy a lesson. So he punches him a lot. He does get some details out of it, but after what he gets enough of what he needs, but the guy's like, no, you should punch him even more. You should, you know, I feel like he's holding back a little bit more. You should keep assaulting him. I'm sorry if I'm laughing about that. It's just, the way I'm saying is, like, you know, that's funny for me. Not the whole thing, but yeah, I'm losing myself here. Drake returns home. I'm a little bit, you know, scarred about what he had to do to get the information out of the guy. He just gets told by his wife and just, like, tries to calm down a little bit of, like, you know, what he just learned. He'll pick things back up the next day, but, you know, he's still a little distraught right now. Perry goes to back to Ginny. Well, no, Perry goes to see Ginny again, this time at her apartment. They immediately flirt for a little bit, her complimenting Perry on his defense today, and you know, she decides, you know what, you earned a little candy time, which I'm like, oh god. Meanwhile, Della returns back from another night with Anita. I want to say, yeah, they were doing something together already. You know, they were doing like some sort of date. I know. So Della was trying to get information about the case via, you know, just her connections. That's when Anita also drops the "I love you" to her. You know, that, you know, this is a pretty big step for them. However, remember, Della technically has a girlfriend already with the Mike Baxter's daughter from the other show, who actually does make an appearance here. I'm like, 2 for 2. Perry Mason as a show, bringing back actors from the last season, and instead of like, you know, giving them full roles, it's like, here's a big moment, one big moment, and then you're gone. Where she, you know, confronts her because she knows like you've been doing a lot of late nights, and like last night I called the office, no one picked up. Della's trying to like, you know, excuse herself, saying like, I just may have not heard it, but like it's too late. Della doesn't have to really say anything. She just has that audible like, you know, the jig is up, and you know, she even the other woman, you know, knowing that like, yeah, she cheated on her, like leaves the house fully, you know, and that's it. And Della is actually filled with, you know, sadness because the cheating thing, okay, not the cheating thing, but like cheating in general is like a very murky subject. Where like How I Met Your Father, which me and my co-host George will be talking about in this summer, they did something in season 1 where they said a line like, oh, it's the good kind of cheating. Like, it led to something that's even greater. But I'm like, well, you still hurt the other person you were in a relationship with. And my sense is like, it's all about communication. Like, if Della had just told her, hey, look, I'm interested in this person, you know, because again, they never specifically said they were girlfriend and girlfriend back last season. They were sleeping with each other. They were, you know, romantically interested in each other, but it wasn't something they were publicly doing. They was just like, when they got home, they, you know, they allowed themselves to fall into these roles, but it was never fully, like, you know, labeled. And then, you know, it had Della talk to her like, hey, look, I'm interested in this person. I want to see where this goes. Can we just take a pause? You know, it may hurt, but I'm like, if you never establish a proper title, there can still be some leeway. But if you're not telling them and then they find out on their own, it is an act of betrayal because, like, you know, you're supposed to, you have intimate moments together that you should at least be open to each other, saying, hey, I'm having feelings for this other person. I want to explore them a little bit more. At least can we just take a pause so that, you know, I can explore this. And if it doesn't work out, okay, we can come back to it. And I know that opens up a whole nother can of worms. I understand it, but it's just every situation is different. Every relationship, every circumstance is different, and you have to view it as such. I still think Della was in the wrong here because she should have told her from the beginning, well, not from the beginning, but like at least from when they were starting to go out together, like, hey, I'm interested in this woman. You know, I need you to know that at least it would soften the blow a little bit. But, you know, now that, you know, Della does care about her. She probably doesn't love her, but she does care about her, and she just hurt her feelings. So I'm like, definitely that is going to hurt Della for a little bit, for a couple episodes from now. I know Strickland gets called by the ADA to get a little bit of to get insight on Perry, just him as a person, as an investigator, and as a lawyer. After that, Perry goes back home after his night of coitus with his fling or girlfriend. Again, this is the thing, like, we don't know what the title is right now. Yeah, so he returns home, but he hears a noise coming from the other room. It's the train set that he bought for his son that is on, even though when he left, it wasn't on, with a cigarette light in there, indicating that someone was in his apartment, basically telling him a message, we can get to where you are. We can get to where you live. Like, that's the message. Like, you know, Perry's, you know, really cracking some eggshells right here. And, like, you know, if he pushes it any further, something could happen. But that was it for this week's episode of Perry Mason with that little cliffhanger. For me, I think it was the most emotional episode of the season so far. I definitely felt more for the brothers. You know, it wasn't a full, like, episode focusing on them per se, but just seeing more of, like, what they had and what they lost and, like, what they're fighting for. It creates, you know, relatability. It creates, like, you know, a direct line to, like, hey, I feel for you. I want to hope that you will get better. It sucks that, like, yes, McCullen technically started all this. Is murder the right answer? It isn't. But the time period, like, again, you get to, like, if you have a civil conversation with someone, like, you know, that has a genuine opinion about these subjects, you will hopefully get a natural exchange of, like, two different opinions. For me, again, this does, you know, expedite the question of, like, you know, was murder reasonable for what the brothers did? Like, again, the brothers did not originally set out to do this murder, but they were paid to do it. They still pulled the trigger. They still accepted the money. With that case of like, is it excusable? It's not, but definitely we do understand, like, they're coming from at least a good place. It isn't something of like, greed or anything. It's because, sadly it is revenge, and revenge is a very bad poison, which is like, sadly we all succumb to at some point in our lives. Hopefully not to that extreme, but still. This didn't really focus more on Perry, Della, or Drake that much. Like, it felt like a good balance between, like, no one was really, like, overhearing to the other, where Perry was finally beginning his true defense, him forming this relationship with Ginny. Let's see how that really goes, to be honest with you, especially how his son's going to react to, like, hey, you're banging my teacher, or some variation of that. Della screwing up with her ex-partner. Well, now her ex-partner was kind of, it is kind of shitty. I'm not gonna lie. It definitely does not play favor to Della's character right now. Drake have to like leer into the dark side a little bit just to get the information out. Wasn't something that I guess he was expecting. It was just something he was pushed to, and definitely he is going to feel the emotional repercussions of that going into like the next few episodes of the season. And overall, what the case is, like, again, we don't really have like a big like red herring yet of like who the actual person is. Definitely the information Drake got will come to light next week when we come back. But as of right now, we still don't really have like the big picture. Could it be one of the detectives or one of the corrupt officers he had on his payroll? Could it be the guy with the disabled sister? Like, there's still a lot of people out there that probably wanted him dead, and we still really don't know who the person is. But for now, we're just going to left speculating. As for me, I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it so much. I can't wait for next week's episode. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Perry Mason? Let's have a conversation down below, as always. But I believe that's going to do it for me tonight, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the 2 from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the second season of Perry Mason. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the 2, besides our Perry Mason episode reviews. Currently, we are not doing anything at the moment, besides Perry Mason episode reviews. Our usual content is on break right now. I have a couple quick impressions that are coming out very soon, so you can go check those out when they come live. But if you don't care about Perry Mason, we will be back next week with another brand new episode review for you to enjoy. So we kind of hit that point where I can talk about the next 5 weeks of content, where next 3 weeks we have the last 3 episodes of review to do. And then after that, we will be doing a hopeful Season 3 predictions video. And then afterwards, we will get to a Season 2 review that is non-spoilers for anyone who has yet to tune into the second season of Perry Mason, which will be completed by the time we hit May. But that's far in the future. But again, we'll be back next week with just another episode review. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Ring the bell. Follow us on social media, and like, favorite, share as always. But until we see each other again, for all you Masoners out there, I'll see you all next week for the next episode review. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.